Alright. Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner, Classic / Non-Classics. This is episode number 25. 23, Doubleshot number 2417. Yep. First up we have is, Ghost Rider Danny Ketch, Epic Collection Volume 1, Vengance Reborn. From what I read online, apparently this book was originally going to be called Ghost Rider Collection Volume 6, but they changed their mind and made it Volume 1. Which collects the first 12 issues of Ghost Rider Volume 3, Mark Spector number 25, Doctor Strange Source Supreme 20, which I'm not going to discuss one here, and Mark represents 64 to 71. Howard Mankey writes the main issues. Roy Thomas probably do Doctor Strange book, probably that, and whoever else. You have Mark Textra, Mark Bagley, Chris Turin, Larry Stroman, and Javier Strenis on the artwork. Mark Bagley does back cover. Front cover is Javier Strenis, who's the main artist here. Book covers the time period of May 1990 and concludes in April 1991. Now, the issues I'm going to be covering here are basically 12 and the Doctor Strange Source Supreme book. Not discuss those issues. Mainly because basically that, the main reason why, because it's discussed already in the Doctor Strange collection. Mostly put in the case of the first issue, it's Dan Ketch's debut, plus the supporting cast, and also gives the backstory of how he became what he is. So, basically, he becomes the Ghost Rider here, not through some deal with the devil possessed by a demon. Not necessarily, no. He was given his motorcycle by somebody he knows, and when he touches a particular symbol, he becomes the flaming hothead Ghost Rider. And gets this particular look with the flaming wheels, and this is the look he has throughout the entire book. This does not change here. You're probably thinking, where's Johnny Blaze? He's not here yet, so don't worry about that. He also sort of has a childhood friend here who is a police officer who the police do suspect him of being like of various stuff, but they try to arrest him and he's like, no, don't arrest me. Get this person to the hospital. He's like, we'll take him to the hospital to put the cuffs on you. And he's like, no, you're not doing that. So they proceed to leave. And they check, oh yeah, this one does need medical attention. So that's kind of the treatment he gets a lot of the book, where people don't trust him. So they rather arrest him for no reason and just basically assume. Of course, he also drops. You see, one thing at least got to appreciate about Dan Ketch is that he's very much as the Ghost Rider, he is, very much helping the innocent. He takes people to the hospital. He doesn't have medical bills per se, but he does drop them off, which is quite nice of him to do. And he does throughout a lot of the book. Excuse me. Yes. Yeah, he's, like I mentioned, not trustworthy at all. There's also first appearance of his, Barbara Ketch. Who is Barbara Ketch, you might ask? Barbara Ketch is, she sadly dies by issue 7, but she is technically, in a way, Dan Ketch's sister, excuse me. And, of course, basically, it was later revealed that she's actually his half-sibling because, of Dan Ketch. Yep. First appearance also Stacy Dolan, who is a friend of the main character, who's still very much around this very day. Yep. Yeah. Though, I at least appreciate, though, that Howard Mankey made her pretty much a supporting character in this book. I mean, she appears a lot throughout this book. And I do mean a lot. She's pretty much here as basically like a regular supporting character. And she's here pretty much up until the very end of the book. And she was even featured in the one-shot Ghost Rider finale, which is basically supposed to be the actual finale of the series. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then her most she also featured Mark Presents, featured a little bit in the most recent in the previous line for the series. She was featured there. Her most recent appearance was actually in the miniseries of Discussing the Future, which also involves basically Dan Ketch. Yeah, really cool character. Death Watch themselves basically make the first appearance here. He, of course, and they later become part of. Well, how should I put this? They later become part of a feature in Marcom Presents for a little while, where Ghost Rider teams with Wolverine take on, of course, Death Watch. They're here mostly put for the first 3 issues and come back in issue 10, but later on pretty much appear in a supporting book. Yep. Yeah, and in a way, they're pretty much, and of course by issue 4, you have basically Dan Ketch taking his first major Marvel villain, Mr. Hyde. One of 2 known villains, and then we have a 2-part guest appearance here by the Punisher. Yes, for 5 of 6. Just like in Night Stalkers. Yep. Let's take on frickin' Flag Smasher. And then, of course, he takes on Scarecrow and Blackout. One of the Scarecrows, anyways. Yeah. And then we have them take on a group known as Heart. Yeah. Stand for humans engaging in all racial terrorism. They're here for a handful of issues per se. They're here for issues 8 through 10. They come back in 15 and then pretty much get disbanded by issue 33. Mm-hmm. And they work with Dan Ketch's primary antagonist, Death Watch. Nightmare appears in issue number 11. And then, of course, comes the Strange Tales arc. But as for the Marcom Presents stuff, for issues 64 to... I think it was 64 to 71. Yes. Yeah, this pretty much is basically Wolverine and Ghost Rider teaming up to deal with Death Watch. And that's kind of in a way what these issues are. Basically them teaming up with each other to take on Death Watch and of course basically dealing with... Yeah. I love the fact they continue this. It's like what's up in Ghost Rider and then continue over in the pages of Marcom Presents. For pretty much an entire story arc, which is fantastic. I love this whole story arc of the Ghost Rider Wolverine take on Death Watch, which was really cool. Yep, and the story is, of course, concluded by issue 71. Yep. And here's something interesting, though. 72 began the, famous Weapon X storyline. You probably think, curious, though. Would Dan Ketch return to pages of Marcom Presents? I believe he does. Oddly enough, the issues themselves take place basically, of course, he pops into Lex in Thunderbolts. Thor. But what about Mark Spector Moon Knight? Mark Spector Moon Knight was just an issue. It just basically them team with each other for a quick issue. Yeah. It just them take on Knights and Moon. They only threw this book in here because Howard Mankey wrote the book. Yep. And this takes place before his appearance in Spider-Man. Yeah. This comes probably just after his appearance in Doctor Strange was Supreme. Really appreciate Marvel include this in here because this was really cool. And sadly enough, basically, after issue 7, next issue, I collect the main. This actually is the only issue collected between issue 7 and 39 of Mark Spector Moon Knight. But this book is fantastic. Loved it. I'm going to give this book a 10 out of 10. Alright, so next up basically is some Wear Up at Night stuff. First of which, Wear Up at Night Volume 2, which lasted 6 issues, published in 1998. Book is written by Paul Jenkins and art by Lerner Marino. The way Jack Russell's drawn here, it's like he reminds me of a DC character. I wouldn't say John Constantine per se, but he reminds me of some character. He reminds me of some character from DC Comics. And despite being called Wear It by Night, Jack Russell's practically the only character featured in this book per se. It just basically like, well, it's published under the imprint Strange Tales. And this mostly put is just, what if Jack Russell went to Paris? It's basically him globetrotting. First issue goes to Paris. Second issue he goes to Texas. But he just basically travels about, similar to his original book per se. But it's a pretty good book. It's nothing really terrible per se. I mean, the only thing weakness about it just feels like just well, Jack Russell taking on some random demons for a quick 6 issues. And then moving over, and of course I'm guest appearance by, of all people, well, Noble Kale. Kale Ghostwriter. And then move over to Strange Tales, which basically also has a cover story with, basically has a co-feature with Man-Thing. This is a quick revival, or lasts a couple issues. Now, there's technically 3 stories in this book, one for Simon Garth, but I'm only going to talk about the Jack Russell issues. It is basically coded on part 2. This mostly is picking up right where the main issue left off. It's like basically they want to lead into this very book. And then pretty much basically like after like only 2 issues, the book gets canceled. No, seriously. Yeah. Don't know why. I think I heard it was canceled apparently due to low sale. That's the reason I heard. The reason the book got canceled. Yep. Next, we move on to a one-shot. Yes. A one-shot released in 2005 known as Legion of the Monsters, Werewolf by Night. Written by Mike Carey. Artwork by Greg Land. Was also featured Monster Americans. It's mostly put an anthology book for Werewolf by Night. But I'm only putting this in here because, well, the main reason why. It's mostly called Legion of Monsters, Werewolf by Night. It's a quick one-shot. Mm-hmm. Oh, actually released in 2007. We have a character named Ronald Smith, basically just a female werewolf who only appears as 1 issue. Like, there's like a total about 2 stories book. First, it's called Small Town Werewolf Girl. It's mostly about Jack encountering a werewolf in Alabama. Yeah, and then the second story is basically about the Frankenstein monster. Yeah, it's quite interesting the fact they featured him in this book. I guess they figured, though, why not? Yeah. Now, the backup story is Piedmont. It's written and drawn by Scotty Young. It's a pretty good story for what it is, and I really enjoy this one shot. Yep. That's going to be pretty much it for particular review. Stay tuned later on for maybe some videos, okay? Next video. Bye.